You know that feeling, right? The racing heart, the thoughts that just won't stop spiraling. Yeah, that's anxiety. But what if you could figure out what's actually pulling the strings? Well, in this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to demystify anxiety by digging into its common triggers and, more importantly, look at some really practical ways you can start to manage them. So before we dive in, just take a second with this question. Seriously, what are your specific moments? The situations or even thoughts that make your heart start pounding or your mind just feel completely flooded. Pinpointing that is really the first most important piece of the puzzle.
So what is an anxiety trigger anyway? Well, it's pretty simple. It's any kind of stressful or unfamiliar situation that kicks off those anxious feelings. And here's the thing, it's not always some huge dramatic event. Sometimes the trigger can be something surprisingly small.
All right, so let's get into some of the most common culprits. We're going to walk through 8 of them, and as we do, just see if any of them sound familiar. See if you can spot any patterns in your own life. Because that recognition, that's the moment you start to take back a little bit of control. Okay, first up, the big ones. The major life quakes, you could call them. We're talking about those huge events that really shift the ground under your feet. And what's interesting here is that even good changes, like, say, getting married or landing a dream job, can bring a whole new level of stress and uncertainty that can absolutely trigger anxiety. I mean, think about it. These kinds of events completely change your reality. Losing someone you love forces you to figure out how to exist in a world without them. Becoming a parent, that completely reshapes your identity. Money problems create this constant, humming stress about just getting by. And a scary diagnosis makes you face your own mortality. Each one of these is just drenched in uncertainty, which is pretty much the perfect recipe for anxiety. But it's not always about those massive life events. Actually, some of the most common triggers are hiding in plain sight, just woven right into our day-to-day lives. Just think about your average day. That cup of coffee that gets you started? Well, a little too much caffeine can actually throw your body's fight or flight response into overdrive. A big exam isn't just about what you know, it's the pressure to perform. And even things like socializing with new people or dealing with negative stuff like bullying at work, those can be super stressful and are often the root cause of social anxiety. Okay, so we've talked a lot about what causes the problem. Now, for the really important part, what in the world do we do about it? Let's start building a toolkit right now with some practical things you can do to calm your body's response. We're going to start with maybe the most powerful and sneaky tool you have, your own breath. Seriously, we're going to try a technique called diaphragmatic breathing. The best part? You can do this literally anywhere, anytime, and nobody even has to know you're doing it. Go ahead and try it. Just follow the steps you see. The whole idea is to breathe deep down into your belly. You want to feel that hand on your stomach rise and fall while the one in your chest stays pretty still. It seems so simple, but this action is incredibly powerful, physiologically speaking. It actually slows your heart rate and dials down stress hormones like cortisol. Just doing this for a few minutes a day can make a massive difference. Now, breathing is just one tool in the box. Regular exercise is an amazing way to literally burn off those extra stress hormones. Mindfulness meditation helps you kind of step outside of those racing thoughts and just be in the present moment. And guided imagery, that lets you take your mind on a mini vacation to a calm, safe place, which gives your nervous system a much-needed break. Look, these self-help strategies are fantastic, but they're not always enough. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for a little more support, and there is absolutely zero shame in that. So let's talk about how to know when it might be time to get some professional help. Here's a really simple way to think about it. If your anxiety is consistently getting in the way of your relationships, your work, or just your basic ability to enjoy your life, that's a huge sign. It's not something you just have to tough out or live with. That's the point where talking to a professional can truly change everything. When you do decide to get help, you'll probably run into talking therapies. Think of counseling as more short-term, really focused on giving you practical tools for specific situations. Psychotherapy, on the other hand, is usually a longer-term thing. It helps you dig a bit deeper into your behavioral patterns and learn how to regulate your emotions. Medication can also be a really useful part of the puzzle, and it's often used right alongside therapy. Different kinds work in different ways. Beta blockers, for instance, go right after the physical stuff, like a pounding heart. Buspirone works more on a brain chemistry level, dealing with serotonin. And then you have benzodiazepines, which are powerful sedatives, but they're usually just for short-term severe symptoms because they can be habit-forming. All right, as we start to wrap this up,
I want to leave you with one last idea to kind of frame everything we've just talked about.
72%. According to one survey, that's how many people in the US felt stressed out about money in a single month. Just let that sink in for a second. If worrying about finances or anything else is making you anxious, you are not alone, not even close. You're part of a huge shared human experience.
And that really brings us to the most important takeaway of all. Look, the goal isn't to live a life with zero triggers. That's just impossible. The real goal is to become a detective of your own mind. That moment when you can finally say, aha, I feel anxious because of this thing that just happened. That's when you break the cycle. That awareness is your first and your most powerful step toward taking back control.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Whether it's giving that breathing exercise a shot, maybe looking into mindfulness, or even just starting a journal to spot your triggers. Which new tool are you going to try first? Your path to managing anxiety really does begin with that one small step.